Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Bermuda Football Referees Corner right here on IslandStats.com. I'm joined by Kalisha Anton, Dave Miko, and Rohan Thorburn. And I just want to say to all three of you, thank you very much for taking the time out. We in Bermuda have been looking, Mr. Cranston Williams has worked extremely hard to improving the standard of refereeing and including the increasing of numbers for refereeing in Bermuda, and I think he's done a stellar job up to date, and we look forward to even more of these young men and women doing things that we haven't seen in this country for a while. But first of all, no stranger to Bermuda. Rohan, you have been here a few times. Over the years, how have you seen the progress of when you first arrived to the point where the last time you was on island?
Good evening to everyone, viewers and all. I can clearly remember the first time I came to Bermuda. In fact, it was Dave and I who, right, Dave, that first MA course that we undertook there. And between then and the continuous invitation from Princeton, the level of progress that I have seen is remarkable. And one of the most remarkable thing is seeing Tashan Simmons making it to the FIFA list. That, remember, he's your gem. He's your jewel of Bermuda.
Okay, all right.
And Bermuda needs to do whatever it takes to keep him there.
Well, we hope to continue with that vein and actually get other people on board as well. Dave, you've been to Bermuda. You've seen the drive and the passion that Cranston has been able to administer and get people out here. Seeing someone like Cranston work with the people that he's trying to push and improve on and get them into a FIFA assistant referee or a referee position. How does that put a smile on your face that this guy's working extremely hard to encourage the local referees to want to be better?
Most definitely, Eric. Good afternoon. Right, most definitely, that does put a smile on my face. Right, I met Cranston some years ago, and from then we found out that he had the passion for refereeing development. He didn't know much at the time, but I sat him down. I remember sitting him down and talking to him and explaining certain processes to him. And he has put shoulder to wheel, so to speak. And at one stage, I thought he was a one-man band, but and I really would like for others in the Caribbean to in other words, I would like to see more Cranston Williams in the Caribbean, right? The landscape of the Caribbean is changing. The landscape of football is changing, and the MAs that are in the Caribbean that are a part of COCAF or FIFA, they need to change as well, or they will be left behind. And what Cranston is doing is ensuring that he'll have a legacy, right? So we have started with Tashan. Tashan is here now, and I think it's the first time in 15 years that Bermuda has been producing someone for the international list, right? So that is good. And there are more established countries who do not have a FIFA official on this. So this is very commendable. And I dare say, once he continues in this vein, then in a couple of years or two, if not earlier, we should see more Tashan Earls coming out of the woodworks.
Oh, that's good. Well, I know you guys are giving credit to Cranston and Tashan, but it's people like you three that have contributed to that in some way, shape, or form by coming to Bermuda, working with them, getting the expertise. And Kalisha, I want to come to you because you spent some time here working on the physical part, the mental part as well, because I know for some people it becomes kind of difficult at times to stay focused when you've got so many other things going on. But looking back at what you were able to accomplish over that period of time, and you were on an island, and looking at the end result, how do you feel as if the information was taken and the training sessions were going?
Well, Earl, you know what I'm extremely happy about? The last time I was in Bermuda was March of this year, just before almost everybody went into lockdown. So I was lucky enough to get home. But during that process, or during that period of time, that's where I met Natasha.
Yes.
All right. And I said to Cranston, you need to hold on to Natasha because she's very athletic already, and her mind, she's strong-willed. So once she says she wants this, and it was at that coach, she said, I want to be a referee. And I'm seeing now pictures every week that she did the fitness test and passed it.
Yeah.
She's doing games and so on now. And so there is somebody else for others to look up to in Bermuda. You have Emily and so on coming up, the young referees, and they come out to training, they work hard, they do what they're asked to do. And if it's something that they do not understand, they ask questions, so that in the end the objective is fulfilled, that they have an understanding as to how to go forward or the way forward. And as you said, having Princeton creating such opportunities, such programs for them from such a young age, and for the other ladies as well as Tasha and so on, it's breathtaking. It's fresh here then, as Dave said. And we wish they had many more Cranstons in the Caribbean, but many more Cranstons also with an open mind and who's willing to bring in persons from outside to help his local instructors as well and his referees, so that they can understand and have a better feeling as to how it is really in the international field of refereeing.
Yeah, I don't know how your family would have felt, but you being stuck on the island would have been a good thing, because you'd have had a chance to work some more magic while you were here.
Yep, correct.
but
I agree with you.
Yeah, Dave, we know that we're going to be struggling internationally for some time. How do we keep the international referees and referee assistants up to par and motivated? Because we although these games, the Gold Cup, the World Cup qualifiers, Nations Cup, have been pushed back to next year, we're still not sure if they're actually going to go on. So how do you keep these guys motivated, and men and ladies motivated to see something on the horizon?
Okay, well, at present, every week I have a referee Zoom session for maybe 2.5 hours. So all the referees in the Caribbean are on that program, right? So that program is geared to keep them occupied, to keep their brain fresh, right? So what we do is to provide clips from the Caribbean games, from the Premier League in most of the countries. And we find clips that are also close in terms of the FIFA clips. So we use those clips, have discussion on those clips or video tests, reviews, and that way we get referees to start thinking, as if they're on the field. Mm-hmm. So this means that when the time comes for action, and I think we'll have some action on October 20 in the CONCACAF League. Right? When this comes on, it will be fresh in their minds. It will be second nature. So when they see a particular decision to be made, there's not much thinking about it, because they would have been exposed to it via these Zoom sessions.
And that's always a good thing. Rohan, with what you do with the officials, how are you managing getting your messages across, especially when it comes to the fitness side?
In terms of fitness, there's a generic program that Kelisha and Alan, the FIFA instructors, sends out, and once that gets here, everybody, all the top tier officials here are sent this program. Now, there are persons that you'll have to adjust the program to meet their needs.
Mhm.
But one thing is for sure, that basic program is of a high standard that will keep them or get them to that level that is required. But one of the things that we can't forget, and with Kelisha and Dave having their weekly referee program, one of the things I have been doing is psychologically trying to speak to the referees, taking out the actual refereeing aspect out, the physical aspect out, and try to, engage them to take their mind away from all the COVID activities, trying to help them to relax. Because this is important. It's not all about just getting up and going out there to train and to focus on video. Sometimes that little chit chat gets them to relax, and to refuel and to go again. Even this
Kalisha,
Saturday,
when we look at, I'm sorry, go ahead.
this Saturday we have the official fitness test for FIFA officials, just for the FIFA officials. That is how we separate it. The other persons on the elite panel, their test will be done at a later date.
Okay. Kalisha, when you hear and see when you're on the calls and you're talking to the people, you work closely with these officials week in and week out, or month by month, or whenever you get a chance to see them. So you could kind of sense when things are going good and things are not going good.
Yes, and it's not only from seeing or speaking to them, but because we are monitoring them as well through the same the polar watches and so on. Sometimes your heart rate, and Rohan can attest to this as well, your heart rate from a distance can say a lot as well.
Ah.
So you look at those and you try to, you question what's going on, how are you training and so on. But even with us, the way how we would have developed the program, that even during lockdown we still created programs, but in this case it was programs to be done at home. So we try to maintain the physical condition even at home using what you have at home. So if it's just resistance bands you have at home, chairs, steps, then we create a generic program where you can easily tweak to what you have at home in order to maintain that physical capacity until you're able, or that physical condition until we're able to go back outdoors. I mean, here in Antigua, we are outdoors and we're training, but there's some persons who are still indoors. And so whenever they ask for that training session to be manipulated or tweaked to assist them, then that's what our job is as well. And as Rohan mentioned also, it's very important that we kind of get to them psychologically as well, because the whole situation, it's difficult on everyone, and for some persons refereeing really is their life. That's how they make a living now. And so taking away that from them for this point in time, have to keep motivating them, finding ways and means to talking to them, to giving them, letting them understand, hey, we're all in this together, we're here to support you. And also, it's not just physically, but we have to support emotionally and mentally as well, and in cases spiritually as well also.
Dave, there's always a second question or a doubt when a referee makes a call, or even a referee assistant makes a call, because we get a different look at it from all sorts of angles. But on the field, they have to make that decision, and they have to play it in their mind and realize whether it's, well, think about it and figure out if it's right or wrong or what the infringement is. But when you guys are then going back over these things, do you take into consideration that that person at the angle that they're at didn't see whatever we saw on a camera, or are they just told, that was the wrong call, the call should have been A, B, or C?
Most definitely. We are very fortunate now to be able to analyze video clips from games at the comfortable level, right? And it's something that we try to have the MAs do, right? So what we do is to analyze a clip if there are flash in the game, whether it's good or bad. We analyze it with the referees, and of course there are times when it is very, very impossible for the referee to make a particular decision given the position. And try as he or she may, it may be, you know, very difficult to get into that position because, you know, the game is very dynamic, right? However, you know, so we show them these clips, we discuss it with them, and we put Keisha and Ron would have put the fitness also on board. So if it is a fitness issue, why they didn't see a particular call, then they would work on that. They would design drills to work on, you know, future happenings, right? So they would do things like that to assist the process and ensure that the match official does learn from it. Because sometimes it's very difficult, and we, as assessors, as instructors, we have to be very mindful of that. We can't look at the game from our eyes. We have to see the games from the referees, from the eyes of the referees. So we ask them pointed questions, you know, and that will tell us, that will give us a more rounded approach as to how to deal with situations.
Yeah. Rohan, when we, as Dave was saying, you look at a wide variety of things that go on during a game and try to assist in strengthening that person. But when we look at the higher levels and mistakes that are made, only because, and I say mistakes, but critics always look at a 10-second or a 3-second decision, and they claim that cost them the game when they have 87 minutes and 57 seconds of everything else. How do we help to educate, not too much about off the field, but on the field? How do we more educate the coaches and explain things a lot more easier to, say, like the media and so forth, so you don't have that questioning these pundits who won't take up a whistle but just want to sit on the side and criticize?
Well, I would suggest, and I would recommend that all parish associations, you know, before the start of each season, the captain, the coaches, trainers are brought into a forum where the laws of the game are explained, and they ask all the questions that needs clarification, and then all these are dealt with. Because let's face it, a lot of times when these coaches make a lot of criticisms, they are way off in terms of what the law recommends. Not saying that the referees are perfect. No, there is no perfect referee. There is no perfect game. But what we have been doing is doing things that minimizes the mistakes that are made in the games. So it comes down to a matter of respecting our officials, because a lot of these guys making these criticisms are really not respectful.
Yeah.
The level of criticism that are leveled at the officials are not in keeping with the spirit of the game.
Kalisha, how do you manage your? Sorry.
I was saying the interaction with coaches can also take place during the season.
Yes.
Right. So if a coach feels strongly about a particular game, and you know, we as the administrators, once we have the evidence of the video and that the referee has been cleared of any mistake making, then we could show the coaches and also educate them as to what the law says. And this could be done during the season as well.
Oh, okay.
And that would help to bring a lot of that will help to push away a lot of the animosity,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and mistrust among the coaches.
Oh, okay. Kalisha, what does some of your virtual training sessions look like? Unmute. You have to unmute. There you go. There you go.
So basically, like I explained earlier, we would have created training programs for indoor. So those virtual training sessions are basically those training sessions for indoor, which we would have tried to still cover some of the capacities that is important in training, like strength, for example, but also using different activities like skipping, using the skip rope, jogging on the spot, or even those same strength exercises, but now turn them so that it has a different benefit. So it may be an endurance benefit at this point in time rather than a strength benefit. So it just depends on what we're working that day. It is really tweaked to suit the capacity that is needed to work.
Yeah, good stuff. Dave, and going back to the point that you were making about the added advice and opportunities for coaches to speak with officials to gain more knowledge. Why do you think some coaches don't take that opportunity to do so?
You know, it's in most cases it has to do with the role, right? So a coach naturally, a player, spectator, they react differently towards match officials, right? And of course, you will find that there are some as well who would take or listen to the reasoning behind the laws, and as well there are some who are just look at winning at all costs. So maybe that is their main thing, to win at all costs. And if you lose, you're going to blame the match officials, right? We are recommending that, listen, even in your strive to have respect for the other participants, right? You know, you have to be able to be professional enough to give a listening ear. You have to open your minds. Sometimes you have to open your minds. Let us hear, you know, what the other party has to say. Because a lot of the times, as Rohan says, there is, you know, a lot of credibility, you know, in terms of the match officials following, you know, following the laws and the law of the game, right? So last year in the Gold Cup, for argument's sake, while all the other confederations were applying VAR, we never had VAR in CONCACAF in the Gold Cup. We didn't.
Right.
Right. And when you take the amount of decisions, and some of them were questioned by coaches, but we had an open a policy where we could talk to coaches in terms of decision making, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe only 3 or 4 would have been overturned by VAR, and that's a lot. That's very good in terms of the match officials getting the big decisions correct with VAR assistance. Right. So maybe, as I said, maybe some of these coaches, you know, maybe I know they're being paid to coach, right? But even within that context, we have to be professional enough. We have to give an opening ear, you know, to what the other stakeholders have to say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I agree with that 200%. Kalisha, when you're looking at preparing someone in particular, such as you did when you came down to work with Antoine and others as well, what are some of the first things you want to know about the person in order to assist them to reach that goal?
So one of the first things that we try to do as fitness instructors all the time is to fitness checks. We need to know where they are before we can take them to where they need to be. I
Mhm.
mean, you oftentimes say if you don't know where you don't know where you're going, right? So it's the same with fitness as well. We need to check them to see where they are. So whether it's through speed tests, sprint testing, endurance testing, high intensity testing, or strength testing, we need to check to see these abilities or capabilities before we can go on and start to apply or manipulate training programs or diagnose and so on before we can assist them. So
Mhm.
in this case, in terms of Antoine and Tashan, I think Rohan and I would have met Tashan in 2016 at a U15 tournament. So
Mhm.
we would have already seen how Tashan, what he's capable of doing and where he needs to be improve on, for example. So from seeing him in 2016 and probably meeting him again in 2017, okay, we already knew, hey, we need to work on speed, for example. We need to do a lot more aerobic work with him to know to build his aerobic base, which is your foundation going forward and so on. So these fitness checks are things we will do to find out exactly where they are and how we can work on where you need to be. Of course, there are also personal goals and objectives. Why are you doing this? And if you're positive as to why you're doing it, then I need to know that you're going to take the recommendations that we're going to give you, because we're only doing all of this to help you to get or to fulfill your objective and to get you where you want to be as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Some good points there. Rohan, when you look at what is required for these officials each year to stay on the list, to be encouraged to be given opportunities to officiate, what are some of the things you're hearing from the officials themselves as they are finding challenging?
One of the toughest challenges that I've heard officials, and we know this, Kalisha can attest to this, is if you start at the bottom each time, it's going to be harder to get back to the top. So it is most important that you don't allow yourself to fall below a certain level. Falling below a certain level, when you get back to training, you tend to want to do things as if you were at back at the same level that you were, and that is exposing yourself to injuries, etc. So this is the importance of the program that Kalisha and Alan sends out. It keeps and maintains the level that one has. And with, as they have said, like the competitions coming up, I'm sure the last program that was sent out has been tweaked with this gear that getting the referees up to that level to take on these games that are about to start.
Mm. Well, folks, I want to thank you for your time here on this referee corner here in enlightening Bermudians and those around the Caribbean who are watching as well. I know I will see you at some point in time back on the island, giving your support, because again, without you guys' support, coming on the island and giving your messages and your time and your training to these Bermuda officials, we won't have a Tashan at this point in time. And hopefully, when you do come back, we can get another one or two on that list in a short space of time. You can take Princeton as well, because the Caribbean needs a Princeton Williams.
Oh, we
Yeah.
certainly do. We certainly do. And with the talent that you have there, I'm sure that sooner or later there will be more Tashans heading in that direction.
Yes.
And
Well,
I agree
folks,
as well.
yeah, great. Well, I look forward to being able to greet you back on the island very soon. And you guys stay safe.
All
Thank
right,
you.
you
You
too.
too.
Okay. Good
Thanks
night.
for having me, and
Okay.
you stay safe.
Bye.
All right, thanks you.